Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Cece and today we are going to be making an amazing prime rib. It is a reverse sear method. I'm going to show you the secret of making the perfect prime rib, especially if you've got a large chunk of meat like this. And I would say anything above 2 pounds, you want to do the reverse method. And we actually happen to have here, it's 2.8 almost 2.9 kilograms, so that's about almost 7 pounds here. So let me just show you here. It's a beautiful prime roast, and it has some great marbling fluid as well. And I kept the cap that came with it, and it also is on the bone. There's a couple of bones here. Okay, and that just helps it to stabilize when we're going to roast it. Most people cook their prime rib at 400 degrees and just pray, and they end up with this gray overcooked ring of meat and the center that is still cold. So today I'm ending that. I am going to show you the perfect sear method. It is a professional secret that they use in kitchens, and it's going to give you this gorgeous wall-to-wall pink roast color. I'm going to cook this roast medium rare to medium. I do not like rare. Just find it very rubbery. So, and I also want this crust over here to be like it shatters, nice and crispy, right? But this all starts 24 hours in advance before you even turn on the oven. Before we even talk about heat, we have to talk about salt. And if you're salting your meat just before it hits the oven, you are missing out. Here is why you need this 24-hour dry brine. Right? First of all, it's going to provide you some deep seasoning. Now, salt is one of those few molecules that can break down small enough to penetrate into the meat, right? Into the muscle fibers. And especially if you have a long brining to it. And if you have a 24-hour brine or even longer, it provides the seasoning from the inside out, not just the surface. That's number one. Number two, it creates moisture retention, right? So salt denaturalizes the proteins in the meat. Getting a little sciencey here, but it allows them to hold on to water molecules. And this is such a paradox, because you would think, oh, salt's going to dry out the meat, but actually drying it, the salt will dry it out and makes the meat even juicier. So yeah, thumbs up to science here, right? And then the other thing is that you want to dry this on a rack, right? So you want to put that on a rack so you have airflow all the way through. So think of it almost like dry aging, right? So that's what I did. And so what I did is I washed it really, really well. I got rid of all of the excess blood, pat dried it really well. And then I just literally took sea salt, and I just covered it all over, all the way. I literally covered all of this in here, and you notice that it all sucked into the meat. Some of it came down. So there's definitely the penicillin effect, right? So leaving the roast uncovered in the fridge dries out the exterior of the skin. This is essentially because moisture is the enemy of a good crust, right? We really want some dry here. And the dry surface sears instantly, whereas a wet surface tends to steam the meat a little bit, okay? So that was what I did 24 hours in advance. I did a dry brine. So what I did is I took the meat out 30 minutes, take it out a minimum of 30 minutes from the fridge, and I just set it on the counter to bring up to room temperature. This just allows everything to sort of reset, but so that you're not going from ice cold box straight into a hot oven. That's my logic in it, and so we'll see we'll see how it goes. So what you'll notice that when I took this out, and I didn't take a photograph or video when I was dry brining it, I completely forgot. So the meat does become, this was a pinkier red. So after 24 hours, the meat does become a little darker, and the surface will feel tacky. right? That's exactly what you want. What I've decided to do is I'm going to make this prime roast very simple. This is such a beautiful cut of meat, so I'm going to let the meat be the star of the show. And what we're going to do is we're going to roast it. I'm going to do some basic Mirepoix type of seasonings, but we're going to make this au jus, meaning that I am not going to thicken the gravy. I want to have the beautiful meat juices to come through. So how do we get that started? Oops. So you just rummage through whatever you have in the fridge. So basically a Mirepoix is onions, carrots, and celery, okay? And I'm gonna add in some, parsley. Now, again, we are not going to be serving these vegetables, so you can literally, okay, so you're just going to get your meat tray, and this is a nice cast iron one. It's got a high surface here. You want that because you want to be able to contain the juices. That's quite heavy. So when you're cutting these, right, what you want to make sure you do is you want to make them chunky. You don't want to make small bits. That's what I used to do when I first started cooking, and it's like my roasts never worked out. And I would always have these burnt vegetables at the bottom. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing it all wrong, okay? And the onion, you do not even have to peel the onion because all of that is flavor, right? So, and what we're doing is we're creating a bed. I can't help myself. Well, I said I wasn't going to peel it, and then you just automatically fall into that trap. There's lots of flavor in the skin, by the way. And I'm going to create a bed that the meat is going to sit on. So it's going to be a nice, think of it as a vegetable rack. So I'm just trying to get that nice and level. And then the same thing with the salad. You want it to be chunky. And the meat has a beautiful cap to it, so. And I just like to I put the celery, this is the parsley, and I love to put the stalks as well in it because it has so much flavor. There's more flavor in the stalks than in the leaves. You're just creating a bed. And the garlic, I literally don't peel it. I just cut that in half and pop that in. Okay, well that's a little much. Put as much garlic as you want. So we'll just pop that there, distribute it. Okay, so I think we are ready to put the meat on there. Okay. Let's distribute some carrots around. Some celery, some onions, so we have an even flavor base. What I like to do here is I keep the salt on the meat. I know moisture is a little bit of a sin, right? But what I want is I just want the seasonings to adhere to the side, and I'm using avocado oil because it has a high smoke point. I don't have to worry about it burning. And I also asked the butcher to put in a plug here to let me know when the roast is done. And I'm gonna add in a few bay leaves, just a few, just break them up. Some dry thyme. That's going to add some beautiful flavor. I don't go crazy with the rosemary, just because rosemary can be a bit overwhelming. So just did enough on the crust to give a bit of hint of flavor. We're gonna pop the meat. Ah, perfect. See, perfect bed. Isn't that gorgeous? And what I like to do is I put a little bit of pureed garlic as well, because I like to season the fat cap, because that fat cap shatters so nicely and is so, it just shatters and it tastes so yummy. So we're going to do the slow and low. You're going to as I said, you're going to, I probably didn't mention it, you're going to preheat your oven to 220 degrees, and we're going to basically put it on the low rack, uncovered. How long do you roast this for? So you want to set your oven to 200 to 225 Fahrenheit. Depends on how hot your oven runs. Now, why are we doing this low? The high heat causes the outer layers of the meat to contract and squeeze out the juices before the center is even cooked, right? Or even warmed, I should say. And the low heat allows the enzymes in the meat to basically act as a natural tenderizer, and the low heat allows the enzymes to act like a natural meat tenderizer as it climbs up to temperature. The target that we are aiming for is we're going to be pulling out this roast when the internal temperature of this roast hits around 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, why are we getting it at 115 Fahrenheit? Because that's perfect medium rare. Because if you want to get it to medium, that's 120, right, Fahrenheit. But I'll put up a scale on the screen for you. But you do maybe want to take it out at around 110, because this is going to sit and sit for half an hour to reclimatize once you take it out of the oven. But also when we're ready to serve this, we're going to stick it in the oven at 500 degrees to get a beautiful golden crust, and we don't want to over roast the roast at that point. That's why we always cook it okay, so that is perfect. Take a look at that. Doesn't that look just spectacular? Now, if you had a meat thermometer probe, you could put that straight in the center of it and put it out, and then when it hits the temperature, you're good to go. I personally cannot find my meat thermometer probe that goes in. I just only have my personal handheld one, so I'll check it from there. So this is like almost a 7-pounder. So with this slow and low, it's going to be in the oven for about 3.5 hours. So that's when it's going to develop all of that beautiful flavor. I'm going to be pink from wall to wall. Just looking so forward to it. Okay, let's get this in the oven. Put it on the lowest rack possible in your oven, okay?
After its gentle, slow journey, the roast emerges looking deceptively modest. It is an exterior matte, uniform tan color rather than that crusty mahogany that we're looking for. We're going to rest this now on the board for at least 30 minutes while it quietly locks in those juices before we put that in the oven at the final high heat transformation of like 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so now we're going to create the rich restaurant quality au jus. So I poured in 1.5 cups of Marsala wine directly over the roasted vegetables and pan drippings. And then I simmered this quite vigorously until the alcohol evaporated and the concentrated Marsala wine essences developed. Then I stirred it and I put in 2 cups of beef broth to meld all the savory flavors together into a sophisticated sauce. So yummy. Can't wait to try it. When you're nearly ready to serve, crank up the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and return the rested roast to the high heat for approximately 10 minutes or until you reach your internal temperature that you desire. to achieve this blistering mahogany crust that provides that perfect finish just before carving. All right, let's get this thing carved up for dinner. By utilizing this reverse sear method, this prime beef roast is achieving a stunning edge-to-edge, wall-to-wall pink center with absolutely no gray ring, ensuring every bite is incredibly tender and succulent and perfectly cooked to the precise internal temperatures required by a gourmet results. But again, you personalize this to what you and your family love to eat. I have some that like pink, some that don't like pink. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you enjoyed this recipe, please hit the subscribe button and support our small channel as we work towards our milestone of reaching 1,000 subscribers in the upcoming months. To my returning champions, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your incredible support and love. Hope you have a fabulous day. Ciao for now. Don't forget to hit subscribe.